Chris Sims, former NFL quarterback. This is from NBC Sports, Chris Sims Unbuttoned. What has bothered him about Deshaun Watson's play?
When I really started to break it down this weekend even more, is just to go, the throwing is so inconsistent. The throwing, right? He can make a wow throw, but like we've talked about with other quarterbacks in the draft process or whatever, there are so many missed errant throws or throws where you go, wait, this guy's open and he has to go to the ground or go behind his back to catch the ball. He has plays, Ahmed, where he throws the football, and I swear to you, he's bent over like a pitcher coming off the mound.
I mean, that would indicate to me, and he has had shoulder injuries. That's exactly what it was. Shoulder surgery, rotator cuff injuries. It's like you wonder if there's some permanent damage that has been done or enough damage to where he has changed his throwing motion and now he's less confident.
I think there could be that, and then you couple that with not playing, right? And, you know, he's just kind of lost his comfort level. It's almost like he's lost his natural instincts as a player.
We'll get to the injury thing in a minute, Quincy. I think part of the problem it's the mechanics, and the mechanics are because he was not in. You know, that it was play 2 games, out 2 games, play a game, out a game, in a half, out a half. You need to get the consistency of being able to practice and throw to get your mechanics where they need to be. We'll get to the injury thing here in a minute, which is not correct even a little bit.
Yeah, and I think also he was being asked to kind of not change his mechanics, but utilize his mechanics in a different way, where in Houston, it was a little bit more loose with where his feet had to be and where the ball got released in his drop. This offense that he was in with Alex Van Pelt and Kevin Stefanski was a little bit more strict on, like, hey, make sure you get rid of this at the top of your 5th step. Make sure you get clean here. So he probably was thinking about his feet a lot more than he ever had in his NFL career. And you know how mechanics work. When you're thinking about, like, I don't know if you play golf or anything like that, but when you're thinking about getting your golf swing right, that's when you shank a lot of balls, like, because you're really trying to get in motion instead of getting in rhythm. And I don't think he got a lot of time to get in rhythm. We saw when he did get in rhythm, these things weren't an issue, when he wasn't thinking about his mechanics as much. And I think that's what Ken Dorsey is here for, to make sure that he is not in a position again where he is thinking as much about his mechanics as he was coming back. And a lot of that is rust, right? When you haven't done something in a while, it doesn't feel like natural to you as immediately as it used to, right? You're like, is this the right foot? Am I going off the right foot? Like, this don't feel right. And I think that really affected him. So yeah, I think you're right. I think he needs more snaps, more reps out there, and also just needs to be doing stuff that he's a little bit more comfortable with, because when you're coming off of a 700-day delay and then you're learning an offense, it's not like majorly different, but how you're applying your mechanics is a little different. Yeah, you're gonna look a little awkward there because it's like trying to learn how to salsa when you only know how to 2-step.
All right, so relative to his injury history, a lot of Browns fans have mentioned, he's injury prone. These are the injuries that he's had going back to high school. He had a fractured hand, a little bit with the lung and the oblique, the knee, he did have an ACL, the shoulder, that's the current one. So his injury risk, and they do these for all the NFL players, it's actually very, very low. Projected games missed in 2024, they say 1.1. Browns fans will take that in a heartbeat. Here, if we go a little bit further, these are some of the injuries that he did have. The one that I completely forgot about is he had a slight crack in his collarbone back in 2014 when he was at Clemson. He had the LCL sprain, he had the torn ACL, back injury. Then the rotator cuff in the throwing arm was last year. Re-aggravated that, and he had the broken bone. The glenoid, which every Browns fan has now learned about. But this isn't a guy that's been injured. I mean, for a quarterback, that is relatively injury-free.
Yeah. I think it's more of a concern about him getting older. But yeah, Deshaun, has demonstrated that he's able to stay healthy and that he's not like built fragilely. Like he's not consistently missing 2 or 3 games a year or something like that to where you would be concerned, right? I think Sam Bradford is like who comes to my mind when I think of a fragile quarterback, and that's not really been what Deshaun thing has been in the NFL. So yeah, I don't know what Chris was getting at there with the whole like maybe he's been like chronically injured with his throwing arm. I think he's just kind of he's thinking a bit much there to figure out why Deshaun was a little bit inconsistent mechanically. I think the answer is obvious when you look at what he was asked to do and what he was coming back from. And when those inconsistencies showed up, because also, I'm pretty sure Chris, if he were sitting here, would also mention the last 3 games that 2 games that Deshaun Watson played in, those issues weren't really as prevalent as they were like in the first couple weeks of the season. So you got to ask yourself, maybe that was just early season stuff where a lot of quarterbacks have issues just kind of slipping into their mechanics and making sure that they're clean with their mechanics while getting rushed because it's just the beginning of the season. Deshaun Watson has so much around him that we kind of like dismiss that the things that could be affecting him are the same things that could be affecting every other quarterback, but he is still a normal person. So like maybe that's what was affecting him.
And it's important to note, Sims is a guy that thinks highly of Watson
Yeah.
relative to, the rankings and all that until this season. So we'll see.